track your conversions. You've got to. If you're not doing it, you don't know what is happening. And more importantly, you don't know how to make it better. If you're not tracking what's going on with your website, your marketing, get that set up. So what we do when we work with a client is we start from the ground up, and we love using Google Tag Manager, for example, to get various tracking codes on the website. Google Analytics is a must. So we want to use Google Analytics for every client. And that really gives us a more holistic perspective of what are the different traffic sources that are driving traffic to the website. And then once people get to the website, how are they engaging with the different pages? How are they getting to the cart, the checkout? What's the conversion rate from different sources?
Our guest today is John Horn. John is the CEO of Stub Group, a digital advertising agency and a Google Ads partner. He is passionate about speaking with clients and other business owners on how to navigate the digital marketing landscape, how to convert more leads, get more e-commerce sales, and grow revenue in general. Our conversation was a bit advanced, but we covered very interesting topics such as Google Analytics best practices, easy wins any store owner can implement in his reporting, chat and call tracking, latest e-commerce trends, and much more.
Welcome to the EcomXFactor podcast, where it's all about launching and scaling your business using sales funnels, automations, and smart marketing. And now, please welcome your host, the founder of EcomXFactor, Yaron Bin.
Hi, John. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to this conversation. And we just spent a few minutes talking before hopping on this call. So I'm sure it will be very valuable because there are a lot of topics that I want to explore today. We're going to talk about tracking and Google Analytics and chat tracking, which are all topics that I would like to know more about. So definitely looking forward to this.
Absolutely. Let's jump in. I've been looking forward to speaking with you.
Awesome. Great. So before we get started, can you share a bit about what you guys are doing at Stub Group and your background?
Yeah, totally. So I'm the CEO here at Stub Group, and we're a digital advertising agency. So what that means is we work with clients, large and small, many e-commerce, as well as other categories, business models. And we manage Google advertising, Facebook advertising, Amazon, Microsoft, so forth, basically all the pay-per-click channels for clients, helping them to connect with their customers online to sell their products or services.
The majority of the e-commerce clients, or how would you define their scale? Or they're like spending $1,000 per month or 10,000, or just to get an understanding?
Yeah, definitely a wide range. We've got clients spending, 2 to 10K per month. We've got clients spending 100K plus per month. So all over the place. We work with clients large and small.
Awesome. Whenever a new e-commerce business approaches you guys and you evaluate your business, what common mistakes or low-hanging fruit do you see?
Oh, how much time do we have?
We have time. Go ahead.
So yeah, some of the biggest mistakes or low-hanging fruit that we see, and often it comes up when we're speaking with them during the initial kind of sales process. We'll often do an evaluation of what they're currently doing, if they're running any campaigns already through Google or Facebook or anything. And so a lot of the times, well, there's combination. So it really depends what type of client is coming to us. Let's start out. Let's say it's a newer business, because there's a lot of people just getting into e-commerce right now, starting from scratch, or they just don't have much experience, and they're looking for a partner to help them to scale things, get to the next level. So oftentimes when we're looking at their campaigns on Google or Facebook, they've just kind of set something up from scratch following Google's prompts, maybe Google's best practices. And they've maybe got a little set and forget it. And they're hoping that Google's going to work magically to bring the right people to their website and drive a good ROI out of the gate. And that's usually just not going to happen because, Google's got lots of best practices, for example, but there's so much more that goes into understanding the unique business that we're working with, the unique customer base, where in that conversion funnel they're trying to reach people. Are they trying to create awareness of a new product that people don't know to search for? Or are they trying to simply capture search traffic that already exists and say, hey, we've got the best widget, or we've got the best X, Y, and Z. So it's helping them think through those things and how to really create an actual cohesive marketing strategy for how they're going to use Google or Facebook or Amazon or whatever they're using digitally to find those customers online. And then also often we're helping them think through things on the website as well when it comes to conversion rate optimization and how they're messaging things about their products. Often we'll have clients come to us and they've got great products, but they just aren't doing a good job of telling the story of those products through their website. They're not leveraging customer reviews. They're not using video to promote their product. They're not, giving good FAQs about their products, descriptions, and titling them well, things like that. And so we'll often work with them to think through those types of things as we are, for example, creating a product feed that we're then going to send to Google or to Facebook to advertise those products and make sure that not only on the marketing side are we doing a good job of getting in front of the right people with the right messaging, but once those people get to their website, there's consistency in that messaging and they're not just having a terrible bounce rate or terrible drop-off rate, which I'm sure is probably the number one thing you're also always talking to the businesses you work with as well.
This is all very interesting and very important. But before we dive into this, I want to speak about the data that you guys are seeing and reporting, because very often people that are just starting out, even the data isn't very organized. I mean, they don't have naming conventions. They don't have a Google Tag Manager, or the Google Analytics isn't set up correctly. So what are the most important steps, in your opinion, to clean this up and know that you have a good foundation of at least analyzing the real numbers?
Absolutely. Yeah, we see that all the time when clients reach out to us. Either they've got some tracking set up, but it's not working properly, or they just haven't set anything up. So what we do when we work with a client is we start from the ground up, and we love using Google Tag Manager, for example, to get various tracking codes on the website. Google Analytics is a must. So we want to use Google Analytics for every client. And that really gives us a more holistic perspective of what are the different traffic sources that are driving traffic to the website. And then once people get to the website, how are they engaging with the different pages? How are they getting to the cart, the checkout? What's the conversion rate from different sources? And also, one of my favorite parts in Google Analytics, we can get to more later on, but it's figuring out what are the multiple touch points in a customer's journey, because they might touch a number of different ads, organic sources, et cetera, before placing an order. So we want to get Google Analytics set up and working and tested, and have e-commerce tracking set up and all of that working properly for a client. We also want to track really any other valuable actions that could take place on the client's website. So for example, let's say they've got a newsletter that they want people to sign up for. Well, I want to have conversion tracking in place to know exactly how many people are signing up for that and where are those signups coming from. Because even though that's not directly money in the door, that's an action. And I want to see, which channels are driving that action, which keywords, which campaigns, et cetera. Same thing if they have a phone number on the website, if they're set up to take phone calls from clients. That is a big area where very, very few e-commerce businesses who reach out to us are tracking phone calls in any measurable way. And very, very few of them are actually matching that tracking, if they have anything in place, back to the marketing campaigns. So we spend a lot of time working with them to set up call tracking. And what I mean by call tracking is actually seeing specifically which keywords, which campaigns, which products on Google Shopping or Facebook, et cetera, are driving phone calls to the client. And then are there orders being placed over the phone? If so, what's the revenue from that? And then importing through offline conversion, getting that revenue back into the platforms so that we're not missing out on whatever 10, 20, 30% of revenue we might be driving from our campaigns, but they weren't able to track previously. So call tracking, super important. If they have chats through their website, we want to be able to track that. Again, any action, valuable action that a customer is taking on your website, you should know when that's happening and what marketing or organic sources or so forth and so on are driving those actions to take place.
Can you zoom in for a second? Let's say, for example, we take the chat tracking. So can you elaborate what does this mean? I mean, you're going to assign UTM sources and medium for all the traffic, and then you're going to assign maybe value for each conversion in the chat. So can you elaborate about this process just for people to get an idea of what you mean by chat tracking, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. So exactly logistically how it works depends on what software you're using. Some software has tracking capabilities built in. Some of them are harder to use because they're using iframes that just don't have tracking built in. But we're always, encourage clients to work with the ones that allow tracking. And there's a couple of different ways that you can track chats. One is kind of simple event-based tracking. So you set up in the back end of the chat software to fire what they call events to Google Analytics when someone's chats. So basically the way that works is Google Analytics is identifying the session data about a user getting to the website. And then when that user engages via chat with either a bot or a live representative, the chat software fires a piece of information to Google Analytics to say, hey, a chat took place. And you can customize it too. You could have chat started or chat ended or things like that, track different parts of that conversation. And then that goes to Google Analytics and that gets associated with that session data. And typically what we'll do is we'll create goals within Google Analytics to be triggered by that event data. So then we're able to see, hey, we had 13 chats yesterday. 5 of them came from people who clicked through Google account ads. 6 of them came from people who clicked Facebook, so forth and so on. And you can assign specific value to them if you find that to be helpful, or typically more often we're not assigning a value per se. We're just looking to see volume and conversion rates and where those chats are coming from. So that's one way. Another way that's even more advanced and that we use, especially for a lot of our lead gen clients, where a lead can actually come through the chat and that's really the only interaction they have, and they need to keep following up with that person, is we'll use offline conversion tracking in Google and Facebook as well. And what that looks like is, like you mentioned, UTM parameters. We'll have those on the initial ad clicks. So say someone clicks through a Google ad and reaches the website, we've got UTM parameters in that address bar for the campaign name, the keyword, the source, medium, etc. And then we will install some code on the client's website that grabs those UTM parameters and saves them as cookies on that user's browser. And then we have additional code that will grab those cookies and plug them into hidden fields, especially on forms. This works really well with forms. But with chats, it's a little bit trickier with chats, usually with cookies, because you're using iframes often and third-party stuff. So usually with chats, what we'll do is we'll work with the chat software that saves the entire URL that someone first reached on the website. There's a lot of chat software, they'll save that, and that'll include the UTM parameters. And then we'll get that information from the client or from the back end of the chat software, and we will look and see, okay, which chats that were valuable actions have UTM parameters, have a specific unique Google Click ID, for example, for Google. And then we can import that information back into Google Ads using that unique Google Click ID that Google assigns to every single click. And then within the actual Google Ads account, we can see, hey, we had 10 chats that came from these keywords, these campaigns, and so forth. And that, again, helps to close that gap and help us make better decisions when we're optimizing campaigns.
Awesome. This is amazing, very interesting. Before we move on, which chats do you recommend? Obviously, it depends on the context, but generally speaking, which software do you like using?
Some of the easiest ones that I've seen when it comes to being able to track as well as just work well with chat software would be Live Chat and Pure Chat. I think both of those I've seen work well. There's lots of others that work well too, but those I'd say are my favorite.
And what about ManyChat? Do you use ManyChat as well?
I haven't had as much experience with ManyChat. I want to say a couple, maybe a handful of our clients use that one, but I just haven't had as much exposure to that one, honestly.
Cool. Awesome. And I wanted to ask you, because to me, it makes a lot of sense. And I've already, can say that I'm experienced in this world, so I know how important is tracking and reporting. But for someone who is just starting out, he might say, okay, this sounds like an overkill. So how would you prioritize, and when should someone say, okay, I'm not yet in the stage that I need to track each click in my chat because I don't have any conversions, meaningful conversions like purchases in my website. So how would you approach this, and how would you maybe convince or decide not to do this because it's irrelevant at the moment?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And we get that question all the time. With a lot of clients, they don't understand, period, why conversion tracking is so important. And then they go, well, why track this? Why track that? So we always look to approach it, that phrase, lowest hanging fruit. I love that phrase. So for example, if it's an e-commerce website, the number one most important thing to track is orders and revenue, because that's what is impacting the client's bottom line. So if we track nothing else, knowing how many orders and how much revenue is coming from marketing is the most important thing. So we'll say, okay, let's focus, let's get that working first, make sure that's all good to go. And then we'll work with them to understand how are people leveraging those other actions, which are most popular. So do they get more calls or do they get more chats? If they get more calls, well, then we should probably focus our time and effort next on making sure that we're tracking those calls and importing that data back in, and then chats, the newsletter forms, so forth and so on. So sometimes we'll have to have that conversation and we don't get our ideal wish list at the very beginning, but as much as possible, we want to track everything and make it as easy for the client to do it as possible. So we'll do a lot of work ourselves within Google Tag Manager to set up some of that custom stuff ourselves. The clients don't have to figure it out or bother their dev teams. And so it's a partnership as we figure these things out together.
Awesome. And how often do you analyze this? Do you make it a point every Monday to enter Google Analytics, or do you have Google Analytics send you reports on a daily basis? How do you stay on top of the numbers?
Yeah, great question. So, team members, we're definitely in the accounts on a frequent basis, looking both for optimizations to make, as well as making sure that the data doesn't have anomalies. It's what we would expect to see. And then if we see anomalies, if we see, oh, hey, there's no orders for the last 3 days, what's going on? Were there actually no orders, or did the client change something on their website that broke our conversion tracking? So then we'll jump in and dig into that. So it's a combination of just being in the accounts on a regular basis, knowing what to expect per client, so that when something differs from that, we can recognize that as an anomaly. And then also we're reporting on a regular basis to clients saying, hey, here's how much revenue we tracked and here's how many orders we tracked. And we're able to test those assumptions with the client. The client says, actually, we had double that revenue. Well, then there's probably a problem and a gap that we need to go resolve.
In regards to Google Analytics, so you mentioned the goals. So I wanted to ask you, what are the tabs that you find most impactful? Because for me, I like also looking at the behavior flow. In Google Analytics, I love that. And also, obviously, building a funnel. I was wondering, what do you find very impactful? And maybe do you structure things in a specific manner that you suggest other people do as well, that is not by default?
One of the places I love to hang out, and a lot of people just, they don't understand that Google Analytics works in this way. But Google Analytics, in most of the places that they're giving you reporting, they're using last click attribution, which means if it says that this particular goal or transaction came from Google CPC, what that really means is that the last thing someone clicked onto prior to getting to your website was Google CPC. But they might have clicked an organic result. They might have clicked to you from Facebook. They might have, done something this day, come back tomorrow or next day and done something again. And it's often not easy to see that type of information in the normal traffic and behavior and acquisition reports. So I love to spend some time in like the multi-channel funnels down in the, if you're in your Google Analytics account, it's usually the second to bottom option on the left-hand column where you can go in, you can see more detailed information about the paths and top conversion paths. That's my favorite report. What you can do there is you can see all those different touch points. You can see, oh, somebody clicked an ad, then they clicked organic, and they went direct, and they clicked Facebook. And you can get a much better picture of those customer journeys, as well as the the dollars that you're investing into marketing, where it might look like, for example, Facebook is not driving much value to you, because if you're looking in the normal traffic area, you don't see many conversions attributed to Facebook. But then maybe you go to the top conversion paths area and you see, oh, tons of people saw us first for Facebook, and then they Googled our brand and clicked organically on a listing. And so you can just get a better visualization picture of your journey by using that.
Yeah, attribution models is such it's a bit advanced, but it's so important to understand exactly how to attribute each conversion and to each channel. And so does Google Analytics also offer some sort of a weighted model? I don't remember. Is there a way
you can customize the things and kind of play around, but I would say 90% of the clients we work with just aren't interested in figuring that out, because it can be complicated and time intensive.
Yeah.
So usually if we were looking at a combination of the main acquisition reports as well as that top conversion path, then you can get a pretty good sense of what's going on.
Awesome. And still in Google Analytics, is there any specific breakdowns that you like doing? I mean, so that we can do breakdown by age, traffic source, gender, location, I don't know, but as desktop versus mobile. So what are the breakdowns that you consider like very important?
Yeah, desktop versus mobile versus tablet is a big one that we look at, seeing how are people engaging across the devices and looking for anomalies in that. And that's usually the first place that I go if I see a problem in an account, if I see conversion rates dropped or something that is out of the ordinary or conversion rates increased, whatever the case may be. When you start digging down to device, we'll immediately see, computer traffic remained the same, but mobile dived by 75%. That tells me there's probably something wrong with our experience on mobile. Maybe there's an element that's being blocked so people can't proceed, or maybe it's just loading really slowly and so people are bouncing, things like that. So devices is my favorite. Gender and age, they can be interesting. I always analyze that with a big grain of salt because I know Google is not super accurate always at figuring out that information. So it can be helpful to guide things, but like I said, big grain of salt when I look at that as well. But then too, if you set up custom funnels looking to see your abandonment rate from your cart or your checkout process, that's another thing that's super helpful to look at, because we'll have clients who they're not getting many orders. We're like, well, the traffic's right. And then we'll look at the add to carts and say, we've got 5% conversion rate on getting to cart, but 75% of those people are jumping out. What's going on? Then we look at their cart and realize, this is broken, or you're confusing people by how you're saying shipping or calculating shipping or whatever. And so we can help them fix that problem by using that type of a report.
Interesting. So can you share a bit more examples of glitches that people have in the checkout? I mean, stupid mistakes that people have, like, for example, confusing regarding the delivery time, or I don't know, there are a lot of examples that come to mind, but I would like to know what are you encountering very often?
Yeah, so many. So I've seen lots of problems in regards to shipping. Let's say maybe they've got a calculator for shipping and it's broken and it's not giving data, or it's giving a number way higher than what it actually should be. That's one I've seen. I've seen just terrible user flows. And this is one thing that has gotten much better as people are more likely to use, say, Shopify or other e-commerce platforms that have figured it all out for them. Yeah. But especially for custom websites, I'll see super confusing flows. I'll see something. I've seen things where I put in my information to purchase a product, and then I click to purchase it, and I get to a page and I think I purchased it. But no, it's actually an upsell page, and my order hasn't processed. I have to scroll down the page to click on another button to place that order. But a lot of customers are just leaving because they think they've done it. And so all of those orders are not being captured. So that's one that comes to mind. And there's been so many different weird things. Obviously, if there's anything functionally that's not working, coupon codes that are supposed to work and are not working, that's a big one. Anything like that. Yeah,
it's very often. I started using autocomplete in my WooCommerce stores, which is improving the conversion. The thing that is good and bad, the pro and con of Shopify is, on one hand, the checkout is already sorted out, but you can't really customize it. So if you know what you're doing, it kind of sucks because you don't have a lot of room to play with, a lot of freedom. Right. But I guess it's good for like the standard e-commerce seller. What about post-purchase upsells? Do you very often use them in the funnels with your customers?
I would say the majority of our customers do not use those. A few have played around with that. Honestly, I haven't seen a lot of data yet in regards to that. So most of them, once they get that order, they're not necessarily hitting them right away, but they are looking to leverage that data in the future. One thing I do see to be very effective.
Quick favor, guys. If you enjoy these shows and have been a listener for quite some time now, we would really, really appreciate it if you could take the time to give us a review on iTunes, Stitcher, or whatever your preferred podcast app may be. Having lots of ratings and audience feedback makes our show become more visible across multiple platforms. And it also supports our mission of helping as many people as possible to become better marketers and better entrepreneurs. So if you're not driving and it wouldn't be dangerous, pause this thing right now and give us an honest review over your podcast app. And we will love you even more than we already do. Thank you for taking the time, and I hope you enjoyed the show.
With that immediate post-conversion action is there are a couple of review collection softwares. Shopper Approved is the one that I know for sure does this, and we've partnered with them for a while. And basically, they will ask for an initial review of the shopping experience from a customer immediately after that customer places their order. And by doing that, and they'll follow up with them later too to get more information once they've received the product and so forth. But by doing that, they have a very high review collection rate, way higher than the industry average, which then goes back into the marketing side of things, because the more reviews you've got, the more credible you look and the better conversion rate we're going to see for a client.
Mm-hmm. Just before our call, I haven't done this for a while, but I analyzed the answers. I have something similar. It's not exactly a review. On my thank you page in one of my stores, I asked the customers what almost prevented you from buying.
Fascinating.
And I saw that a lot of people said, I wasn't sure about the sizing, I don't know your company. So a lot of stuff like that. Mm-hmm. And then I went ahead and thought about tests to create a hypothesis of tests that are addressing these objections. So I love the idea of having a review when they are still hot and just bought from you, and also asking them what almost prevented you from buying. I find it very useful, because then you get data about what might be kind of off in the funnel.
Absolutely.
And you shared before that you also use very often FAQs. So do you put the FAQs in the product pages very often, or normally do you redirect customers to a store FAQ? Do you find there is a best practice about this?
I would say typically put it in the product, on the product page itself. Really, it depends certainly on the product and the business, but especially if there are a lot of questions that are going to be specific to that product. I don't want to have people having to click around the website and get lost or get frustrated. Put that information right there. And that's something too where going back to the call tracking side of things that we're talking about, we've actually been able to leverage that to help clients build out FAQs, because we have a team who listens to the phone calls that come in. We record them, and we're hearing conversations, we're hearing questions. A good example would be, we have a client, they sell a supplement that's it's oriented towards men. It's not just for men, it's great for women as well, but the marketing is oriented towards men. But we're hearing women calling in and saying, hey, is this product good for women? And the service, the team answering this call is be like, yeah, it's great. We just focus towards men in the marketing, blah, blah, blah. So we were able to go to the client and say, hey, you're getting lots of calls from women who are interested. Let's add an FAQ on the page that says, is this product good for women? Absolutely. Here's why. So nice. Stuff like that, I think is really valuable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for me, I also use this FAQ specific to the product, and I also tested out in the chat. So as soon as someone opened the Zendesk chat in my store, so they have 3 top questions, and before they even ask, I already address the most common objections, and I already answer the questions, which I also found to be very good for the conversion rates. Can you elaborate a bit about like the call process? Because this is something that I'm not doing at the moment. And I think that it's a big opportunity also to speaking with your customers, maybe even upselling. Do you do this also for upsells, or especially for like giving customer support?
Yeah, so for the calls, well, the way it works is we have a call tracking system, and basically we put some code on the client's website, and it's looking at the UTM parameters of click through to the website. So let's say someone clicks through a Google ad. The code will recognize, click from Google. It's going to save the unique ID associated with that click in the backend. And then it's going to swap out a call tracking number that we purchased for the client. So that phone number is unique to the client. It's not shared by any other businesses. It's theirs for as long as we're working together. And from a customer perspective, getting to the website, nothing changes. They see a phone number up there. They call it. That call is routed directly to our client's phone lines, just as if they were calling the main hard-coded phone number that's up there. But because we dynamically swapped out that call tracking number, we're able to see that unique ID, see how they got to that to trigger that number, and then we're able to record that phone call. And so we record the call. We have our raters listen to the calls, and they're looking for, number one, is the action that we're trying to take, or we're trying to get the client. Did the action take place? So if it's an e-commerce company, was there an order placed? If there was, what's the revenue value of that order number? They enter that into the system. Boom, we can update that in our records. Or, were there problems with the call? And we'll give feedback on this to our clients. Some of our clients, for example, they'll have an answering service. And so someone will call in and say, what's the... What's X, Y, and Z about this product? And the answer is they'll know, or they'll give the wrong answer. And sometimes our call raters will actually learn the client, and they'll know the client better than the answering service answering those phones. And we'll send emails to the client, say, hey, train Amanda on your answering service to actually know, no, you guys offer this, or this product's good for that. We had one scenario which basically the client, they're in the scuba gear space. They sell scuba gear all across the country. They had a new team member who had just recently joined the team. He was taking phone calls, kind of still in training, and a customer called in, and the customer was looking to purchase a product. And while he was on that phone call, the price on the website for that product changed, because I guess they were updating things in the back end right then. So the customer's like, wait, the price just went up. What's up with that? And the new guy on the client's end didn't really know what to do, but he basically said, yeah, the price just changed, so you're gonna have to pay the higher price. Customer was not happy because obviously he saw a different price, but he went ahead and placed that order because he needed the product, and so forth and so on. So our call rating team, we hear that call, and we reach out to the owner and say, hey, you might want to check into this because customer's not happy because of X, Y, and Z. And so the owner is like, yes, that was not good. Owner called the customer, apologized, said, hey, let's come refund you the difference. Had a great conversation. That customer actually was so happy, he ended up placing an order for another $1,500 product on that call. And then the owner of the company was able to talk with that new guy and say, hey, here's how you handle that type of situation. So stuff like that is just another way that we use that call tracking, not just to report, but also help educate and train and upsell our clients.
Awesome. So you're saying it wasn't just a cheap scarcity trick to increase the price during the call.
Nope, that was truly an accident on that one.
Cool. And what software are you using? Because it sounds like or is it something that you hard coded, like the dynamic number change and stuff like that? How did you do this on a technical from a technical point of view, assuming I want to implement this right after our call?
Yeah, totally. Call Tracking Metrics is the name of the software that we use. There's a couple leaders in the industry. There's CallRail, Call Tracking Metrics. Those are a couple of the biggest, most well-known names. And we've worked with Call Tracking Metrics for pretty much ever since we started as a business. And they work great. They're really easy to use, reliable, dependable. So we use them for basically all of our clients.
And do you find that the call support, first of all, most of the e-commerce stores, they offer 24/7 or during opening hours? This is the first question. And the second question, how impactful do you find it in regards to ROI? Because it can be a bit expensive to hold like a customer support, stay put, and a team. So,
right. Yeah, that's a great question. I would say a fair number of our e-commerce clients don't offer phone support at all. They just don't feel it to be valuable for them. Where I see it being most useful and valuable is definitely the higher the price point of the product, the more important that is. So that a scuba gear client being a great example, they're selling wetsuits, dry suits, things could be $1,500, $4,000. People are going to have questions about that. And those questions are often best going to be answered on the phone. So that's a great use case to be able to answer those questions, close those sales on the phone. If you're selling a widget for $10 a pop, then it's probably not going to be worth it to be hiring team members to take those phone calls. So it really depends on your margins and your price point.
That makes sense. Cool. What else are you seeing these days? Are there any major trends that you've been, because you help so many e-commerce store owners, so probably you see like you have a broad view of what's going on. And so do you see any interesting traffic channels emerging or more use of a specific best practices that I mean, not everybody is already using and abusing. What are you seeing?
Yeah, totally. A couple that come to mind, TikTok is one that, I mean, it's not new, certainly, but there's still a lot of new adoption going on right now. People figuring out their ad platform, which they have, as well as just looking for influencers to work with, create TikToks, advertising their products. We've got some clients who are getting into that, especially in the clothing space. TikTok can work really well for showing off a new look, influencers, driving traffic to a website. So that's one that we're exploring, getting into, helping some of our clients out with, as well as one that I don't see much adoption for yet, but that I'm really interested in is augmented reality, especially for products, say furniture or shower curtains or anything that people might want to visualize in their space. There's some really good software out there. It's starting to get a little more adoption. It's starting to get a little bit cheaper. I've been speaking with some of the leading ones out there about working with it for some of our clients. And it's just so cool because a customer can take their phone, scan a QR code or tap a button, and then point their phone at their space and see what would it look like to have this table or chair or painting or whatever the object might be. How would it look? How would it fit? What are the dimensions? Can I put this on my wall? And I think we're going to see a lot more of that in the next couple of years. Start to roll out with e-commerce sites.
Sounds like a very cool idea, and something that came up like in my thoughts during the call. So maybe an objection that many people have. So you suggested this augmented reality feature, which sounds very cool, and all the click tracking. So maybe people might be afraid of all of this stuff slowing down the page loading time. Yeah. So is this objection valid in your opinion, or what can be done in regards to?
It definitely can be valid, and that's when you're thinking through cost benefit analysis of using any type of software on your website. You definitely need to think through what impact it's going to have on your speed and what you can do to improve that, because as you know, speed still is such an important part when it comes to the conversion rate. People don't have patience, and I don't have patience. When I get to a site, if it's not loading, then I'm gone. I'm on to the next one. So you've got to do everything you can to make things load quickly. And there's lots of different strategies and techniques for how you implement code on the website to try to reduce that speed. Are you going to have everything load at once, or are you going to load things sequentially so that part of the page can appear while people are scrolling? So that's one strategy a lot of stores use to make things load more quickly.
Lazy loading.
Exactly. Lazy loading, and of course making sure on mobile especially things load quickly if they're out on a data connection or whatever the case may be. So it's if you put every single piece of software possible out there on your website, you're probably going to have a slow website. So you got to think through what's most important, and what might be most important for one website might not be most important for another website. Furniture store AR might be great and it's worth using that. Whereas again, if you're selling a $10, if you're selling a keychain, people don't need to use AR to see what that keychain looks like in their hand.
Sure. So I agree. And when it comes to videos, do you have like a sweet spot for how many videos do you use, or which hosting do you suggest using when it comes to videos in your product page? Do you have like a best practice or advice about this?
I'm glad you brought that up, because honestly, we're still working hard to get clients to make videos to begin with. That's still one of the areas of adoption that is, I think, lacking in many e-commerce stores. Video does such a great job of selling a product, creating connection, creating credibility in the mind of a customer viewing the website. But a lot of e-commerce, a lot of businesses, they just don't want to invest the time or the money or the resources into making videos. So once they make a video, I definitely recommend having at least one on the product page. Usually I'd say, one is good, unless it's a more complicated product that requires, explaining different features. Maybe you have a short video about this, a short video about that. But typically I'd say one is good. And as far as, how you embed that, usually for the clients we're working with, it's either the native integration that, say, a Shopify or Magento or something has that they offer, or a YouTube video that they embed on that page.
Cool. And do you use any specific tracking for the videos?
There is some tracking you can set up if you want to be really custom and advanced. You can use Google Analytics to track playthroughs, what percentage people reach, that kind of thing. Most of the time, we really don't get into that because it takes a lot of work on our part and the client's part to set up. And we don't see a ton of value necessarily in tracking that. We're more focused on just the overall conversion rates on the page, how people are flowing through the website, adding to cart, etc. So you can, but I'd say most of the time it's not a high priority for us.
Yeah, I agree. It's a bit of an this is obviously a bit of an overkill, unless you have like a ClickBank offer, which is only like a VSL, and then it makes a lot of sense. But we're not talking about this type of offers just yet.
Exactly.
Cool. One question regarding your knowledge of Google Tag Manager and reporting. Which books? Are there any books that you recommend if people want to read more about web analytics and learn more about this stuff?
To be honest, I really don't read books when it comes to that, because from my perspective, by the time the book gets out there, it's already outdated because things move so quickly in the space. I'm sure there's exceptions. I'm sure there's some great books out there that I haven't seen, but I usually focus my time and encourage my team to focus their time on articles online, because there's tons of very in-depth, very helpful articles. You can search pretty much any problem or any question and find someone who's already put together a step-by-step tutorial. And I'm always looking at the timestamp. When was this posted? Is this 2021, 2020, or is this 2016? And then it's probably changed since then. So just Googling and finding articles is my go-to.
And do you have any specific like thought leaders that you follow in this regard of the tracking and reporting?
I would say sometimes I'll see some good stuff on WordStream. They've spent a lot of time creating content because they do a lot of just content marketing in general. So sometimes I'll come across some good WordStream stuff. When it comes to understanding new features or things that come out, Search Engine Land is awesome at often being the first to release information about something and then get some feedback from agencies or companies who are already leveraging that new feature and put that information up there. So I spent a lot of time on Search Engine Land. And then outside of that, it's just seeing what comes up, what looks legit, what's most recent.
Cool, interesting. Because I thought that you were going to bring up. There is a book that I've read, which I guess it's 10 years old or even more. I mean, maybe older, by Avinash Kaushik. It's called Web Analytics 2.0, and it's amazing because it is old, but it's still relevant because all the principles are still the same. I mean, the importance of tracking and giving value to all of the conversions and how to track and different attribution models, stuff like that. So for me, I think it's like the most fundamental book for like web analytics. So I highly recommend this one.
Awesome. I'm going to put that on my reading list.
By Avinash Kaushik. He's a very famous marketer. So I wanted to ask you about the freebies that you guys are offering, the evaluation. So can you elaborate a bit about this?
Yeah, absolutely. So we offer a free advertising evaluation, and this is something that we use a lot when a business reaches out to us looking for help. Often they know they need help, but they don't even necessarily know what are the right questions to ask, or even specifically what are their pain points. They just know that things aren't how they think they should be. And so what we'll do is we'll get all the information from them we can about their goals and pain points and so forth. But then we will do a free evaluation. We'll take a look inside their Google account or their Facebook account, for example, and we'll put together our feedback, kind of the good, the bad, and the ugly of what we see going on. And we'll share that with them and say, hey, here's things that are working well, keep doing this. And we'll see, hey, here's areas where you're wasting spend. Look at these search terms. These are not relevant. You're wasting all this money on this. Or, hey, you aren't leveraging Google Shopping and you're an e-commerce company. What's up with that? We need to get you on Google Shopping. It's both big things and small things that are going to impact their performance. So we'll share that with them in a document and we'll walk them through that, answer their questions, make sure they understand what we're saying. And then they can either take that info and run with it if they want to improve things. There's no obligation. Or, hopefully they'll see the value in what we can do for them and the reality that we grasp, their business model and how to help them. And then we can work together with them to start implementing those findings that we've made and start improving things moving forward.
Awesome. And this is relevant to like any scale of store?
Yeah, any scale of store. I mean, we'll take a look. If you're spending $10 a month, we'll take a look. There's not much data, so it's going to be more of, hey, here's what we would do, because there's not much
spend
analysis.
more. We would spend more.
Exactly, spend more. And then if they're spending millions a month, we'll take a look in there as well. And there's way more data, so there's way more we can tell them. But yeah, there's small or large. We've done it all.
And the collaboration with you guys, how does it look like? I mean, is it like a one-stop shop, or is it like do you run the ads, or you just give CRO advice, or is it ongoing? Can you elaborate about this?
Yeah, totally. So it's an ongoing relationship where we kind of view ourselves as an extension of the client's marketing department, specifically when it comes to pay-per-click advertising. So we will do all the work, do all the management when it comes to running ads campaigns on Google, Facebook, Amazon, etc. Any platforms that we agree with the client make good sense for them. And they're trusting us to use their budget wherever it's most impactful. So if we see things, if Google is working well, we'll spend more money there, less on Facebook. If Facebook's working well, vice versa. Our goal is to just spend that money as effectively as possible, hitting the client's goals, whether that's return on ad spend or volume of orders or whatever that may be. And then we are working with them on a monthly basis to improve the results over time, making sure they understand what they're actually getting from the marketing, what we're doing to improve, what we're doing to cut waste. As they come out with new products or new services, whatever, we're helping them to get those out into the marketplace, advertise them. We're also making sure that conversion tracking is working. From the outset, we'll help them set it up, and then ongoing, we'll make sure it continues to work, make sure that we're getting accurate data for optimizations. And then lastly, we're also, like you mentioned, helping them out with CRO ideas, not typically managing the websites themselves, but giving them understanding ideas from what we see work well across many, many different clients, and saying, hey, let's test this, or hey, I think this is hurting your conversion rate. What if we change the messaging to this instead? Or what if we tried this offer to encourage people to take that action? So forth and so on.
And this is a huge advantage in hiring an agency. It's someone that has a broad perspective of what's going on, also in your specific vertical and also in other verticals, because you might be selling a widget, which is the example that you've been giving all along the podcast, and they might be also selling furniture and might get an idea from this furniture store and implement it and make the adjustment to the widget store. So having someone with a broad perspective is amazing. How does the compensation look like? Is it a management fee or what exactly?
Yeah, it's a management fee. So typically what we'll structure is the client will be paying the ad spend directly to the platform we're using for them. So if they're on Google, for example, they're paying Google the ad spend. And then we charge a monthly management fee for the work that we're doing to actually manage those campaigns for them. And that fee, it depends on how large their budget is and what channels we're working with them on. But we try to be competitive and make sure that they see that value in the work that we're putting in, because we don't lock people into long-term contracts. It's typically a month-to-month agreement. So every month we have to stay hungry. We have to stay proving that value that justifies the client to want to pay us money on top of ad spend to do that work for them.
So do you have like a team of people that create the ads and copywriters? Can you elaborate a bit about your team?
Yeah, so typically we'll have a dedicated team assigned to each client that we're working with, and they'll have multiple clients they're working with. So they're getting that breadth of experience we talked about seeing what's working well across many different clients. And so they'll get to know the client. They have a dedicated point of contact within Step Group, so that we're growing alongside the client. We are figuring things out. We are learning from historic performance and allocating that towards future performance. And that team will be responsible for writing the ads, for managing the bidding, for creating the campaigns, troubleshooting the tracking, speaking with the client to make sure the client is on the same page with us about what's going on. And they, that dedicated team basically takes it and runs with it, and hopefully drives awesome success for that client.
Awesome, cool. John, it's been a real pleasure, a lot of food for thought, and a lot of stuff that I would like to implement and test in my own operation. Is there anything that I forgot to ask, or anything that you would like, some sort of advice that we didn't cover during our conversation that you would like to share with the audience?
Yeah, I'll beat a dead horse. I'll say track your conversions. You've got to. If you're not doing it, you don't know what is happening. And more importantly, you don't know how to make it better. If you're not tracking what's going on with your website, your marketing, get that set up. And if you want to reach out to Stub Group, I'd love to have one of our team members give you a free evaluation and give you our perspective on what's going on.
Thank you so much, John. Again, it's been a pleasure, and I wish you best of luck. And we're going to share the link to your website in the show notes, obviously. And I encourage people to reach out and get the free evaluation, because I'm sure it's very impactful and positive ROI for sure. Thank you so much. Take care. Hi guys, this is Yaron again. Just a few more things before you take off. Number one, if you want to learn more about e-commerce and marketing, make sure you check out our YouTube channel, which is called EcomXFactor Official. Number two, check out our Facebook group, which is called EcomXFactor Marketing and E-commerce Mastermind. This is a great place to ask questions and connect with other business owners. And last but not least, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to share it with your friends and colleagues, plus leave a review at your favorite podcast app.